Galactic Academy was buzzing with energy. In the massive training arena, hundreds of alien cadets moved around, their bodies floating slightly above the floor in zero gravity. Some had long, twisting tentacles, others glowed faintly, and a few even had multiple heads. But all of them had one thing in common today: they were waiting to see the human. Lieutenant Mark Jensen, the only human in the Academy's elite training program, stood calmly at the edge of the arena. He looked around, quietly observing the cadets. Their whispers and laughter reached him like tiny buzzing insects, but he didn't react. He had faced mockery before and had learned the most important rule: never give the bullies the satisfaction of seeing fear. Look at him, hissed a tall, green-skinned cadet with sharp claws. He doesn't even sweat. Humans are so fragile, yet he pretends to be brave. Another alien with glowing blue eyes laughed. Yeah, watch him try to survive the maze of annihilation. He'll be gone in 5 minutes. The aliens continued to joke and push each other, pointing at Mark, tossing small energy balls near him, trying to get a reaction. But Mark simply adjusted his stance, his feet firm on the metallic floor, his eyes scanning the maze entrance ahead. The maze of annihilation was no ordinary obstacle course. It was designed to test strength, intelligence, reflexes, and endurance all at once. Many cadets had failed it before, often with severe injuries. Some never returned. Mark knew the danger. He also knew that the cadets were blind to what humans could do. Where they relied on strength and predictable tactics, humans relied on thinking, observing, and adapting. And today, he would show them exactly why humans were underestimated. Cadets, line up. A booming voice echoed through the arena. The voice belonged to Commander Vryn, one of the most feared instructors in the Academy. His translucent form shimmered as he floated to the front. Today's test will separate the weak from the strong. You will enter the maze of annihilation. Only the best will leave it intact. Show me what you are made of. The cadets cheered and floated toward the maze entrance. Some nudged Mark, whispering insults, but he ignored them. He had no reason to waste energy on their words. As the first group of alien cadets stepped into the maze, the walls shifted and rotated with a mechanical groan. Holographic traps blinked into life, pits that could open beneath a misstep, laser beams that cut through the air, and walls that could close suddenly, crushing anything in their path. It was chaos disguised as a training course, and the aliens were confident they could handle it. Mark waited. He watched the aliens' movements carefully. He noticed the patterns of their mistakes, the way they relied too heavily on brute force, the way they rushed forward without observing. He smiled faintly to himself. The maze wasn't impossible. It was just a puzzle, and humans were good at solving puzzles, especially when no one expected them to. The air in the arena grew tense as the instructor's voice rang out again. Begin. The aliens surged forward, their mockery now turning into shouts of excitement. They were confident, laughing as if victory was guaranteed. But with each step, the maze claimed its first victims: an alien's leg trapped in a sudden energy grid, another caught between shifting walls. Panic replaced laughter, but Mark remained calm. He stepped forward slowly, his eyes scanning the floor, the walls, every moving part. Every cadet who had mocked him looked back, startled. How could a human be so calm in this death trap? And in that moment, the audience, both in the arena and watching from afar, felt the first spark of suspense. This wasn't going to be just another training day. Something was about to change. Something deadly. And all eyes would soon be on Mark Jensen. The human who refused to be afraid vibrated through the walls. The maze was alive. Metal panels shifted, energy grids sparked, and walls slowly rotated, forming new corridors every few seconds. The alien cadets were already inside, rushing, panicking, and shouting orders to each other, as if that could save them. At first, Mark walked calmly. He observed the maze, scanning patterns that the aliens ignored. The floor tiles had tiny markers, subtle hints of safe paths. The walls had slight grooves that suggested when they might shift. To any ordinary being, this would go unnoticed. But Mark had trained in observing the smallest details. Humans survived by noticing things others missed. He could hear the alien cadets shouting behind him. "Move faster, slowpoke." One yelled. Another groaned. "I can't believe a human made it this far." Their laughter from the first moments was gone, replaced by stress and fear. Mark came to a junction. Two paths lay ahead, one lit with a green glow, seemingly safe, the other dark and uninviting. Most aliens would have chosen the green path instinctively, thinking safety was obvious. But Mark hesitated and walked into the dark corridor. The walls closed slightly behind him, blocking the green path from view. Behind him, he could hear alien shrieks. One of them had stepped onto a hidden energy tile, which shot sparks and yelps rang out. Mark's heart beat steadily. Not fast, not slow, just steady. Every step was calculated. Humans might be physically weaker than aliens, but their brains worked faster than most of the species in the academy. He thought this maze is designed to test fear, not skill. Stay calm, observe, move smart. Deeper inside, the traps became more dangerous. A low-hanging energy beam swung in unpredictable arcs. One alien cadet, overconfident, tried to leap over it. Mark watched. The cadet's foot caught the floor tile wrong, and he tumbled, his scream echoing through the corridor. Sparks from the beam scorched the metal walls around him. Mark ducked smoothly under the next arc, barely breaking his stride. Then came the pressure plates, thin panels that triggered the ceiling to drop or the walls to close. Many aliens ran across them blindly, panicking, their reflexes too hasty. Mark stepped lightly, noticing the slight vibration of a safe plate underfoot. Step by step, he avoided the danger without even thinking. As he rounded another corner, he spotted Zorvix, the tall green-skinned cadet from before, struggling to lift a fallen wall panel. His tentacle arms were flailing, his eyes wide in fear. How is he still moving? Zorvix whispered to himself, almost trembling. He glanced back, seeing Mark calmly walking down the corridor, moving almost effortlessly. Rage replaced fear, but there was no time to act. Mark's attention turned ahead, a narrow corridor with swinging energy axes. Most aliens would rush and get sliced, but Mark noticed the timing of the swings. They moved in a rhythm, almost musical. Counting silently, he stepped forward, weaving through with precise human timing. Each step was careful, yet confident. He could hear alien screams, walls collapsing, and energy sparks everywhere. The chaos made his progress slower, but safer. Every cadet who mocked him before was either injured, stuck, or panicking. Mark didn't gloat. He didn't need to. His silence, his calm, and his control over the chaos spoke louder than words ever could. Finally, he reached the central chamber of the maze. From here, he could see other corridors twisting in impossible patterns. From the chamber, it looked like the aliens had no plan. But Mark had already noticed the pattern the maze followed. He smiled faintly. To them, it was chaos. To him, it was a puzzle he was meant to solve. And somewhere deep in the maze, Zorvix's panicked eyes found Mark again. The cadet's confidence from the start was gone, replaced by fear. The mockery, the laughter, the arrogance, all erased. The human moved forward like he belonged here. Mark took a deep breath. The maze wasn't over. The traps would get harder. But the alien cadets who had laughed at him were already learning a lesson: humans were not weak. They were unpredictable. They were smart. They survived when others failed. And today, that unpredictability was about to become dangerous. Mark Jensen stepped into the twisting corridors beyond the central chamber. The air hummed with energy, a constant vibration that made every step feel heavier. Ahead, the maze had become alive in a new way. Walls shifted faster, floors dropped unpredictably, and traps appeared without warning. Every corner seemed designed to make even the strongest cadet panic. Behind him, he could hear alien shrieks. Zorvix and a few others were struggling. One cadet got trapped under a falling wall panel, screaming as sparks flew around him. Another tried to leap over a pit, misjudged, and disappeared into darkness with a shocked yelp. Mark didn't stop or look back. He didn't need to. He had already learned the rhythm of the maze, watching the chaos as it unfolded like a story only he could read. A corridor narrowed suddenly, forcing Mark to squeeze sideways. Energy blades swung from the walls, moving in patterns meant to punish hasty movements. He paused for a moment, counting the swings silently in his head. 1, 2, 3. Then he ducked and rolled through a narrow opening just as the blades swished past. Behind him, an alien cadet had rushed forward recklessly and was cut off balance by a spinning blade. A scream echoed through the metal corridors, but Mark continued without flinching. He reached a section of the maze filled with pressure plates. Some plates were safe, others triggered crushing walls or sudden energy bursts. Most cadets had panicked and stepped blindly, triggering every trap. Mark knelt briefly to observe, noting the faint hums beneath each tile. Step by step, he crossed the corridor, silent, precise, calm. The aliens behind him were scrambling, shouting and slipping, struggling with what they thought was simple. Then came the floating platforms. The maze had opened into a vertical shaft with platforms hovering over a glowing pit. Some moved side to side, some rotated slowly, others shot upward like rockets. Zorvix looked at it and laughed nervously. "You can't survive this," he shouted, thinking Mark would hesitate. Mark didn't hesitate. He leaped onto the first platform, feeling its subtle movement. His eyes tracked the others in the air. Timing each jump, he moved like water flowing between rocks. One misstep would mean falling into the glowing pit below. Several aliens attempted the platforms after him. Most fell immediately, screaming as sparks and energy shot from the walls. Some managed to cling to ledges, terrified and shaking. Halfway through, Mark noticed Zorvix trying to cheat. The cadet tried to grab a moving platform from the side, swinging recklessly. Mark waited, observing carefully. The platform lurched under Zorvix's weight, sending him sliding toward the edge. With a small nudge of his foot, Mark subtly shifted a nearby floating panel just as Zorvix slipped, saving himself but causing Zorvix to nearly fall. Zorvix's eyes widened in shock. The human hadn't attacked him. He had only used the maze itself against him. Mark smiled faintly. Humans didn't always fight with brute force. They adapted thought and used the environment in ways no alien expected. Zorvix's arrogance had blinded him to the simplest truth: humans survived not because of raw strength, but because they could see and act where others could not. The platform section ended, but the maze didn't relent. Ahead, a corridor opened into a narrow path surrounded by walls with spinning energy spikes. The spikes moved faster now, cutting through the air like metallic tongues. Mark paused briefly, watching their pattern. Slowly, he edged forward, leaning low, then ducking, then rolling with perfect timing. Sparks flew around him, but he moved unharmed. All around, alien cadets struggled. Their screams and panicked shouts echoed like music to Mark's ears, not in pleasure, but as proof that his observations and patience worked. Every step brought him closer to the center, where the ultimate challenge awaited. As Mark reached a high ledge overlooking a vast chamber below, he stopped and glanced down. Below him, several cadets had been trapped or injured. The maze was claiming the arrogant first, and yet Mark remained calm. His breathing was steady, his mind clear, his eyes. Mark Jensen's heart was steady, but his senses were sharper than ever. He stood on the edge of a high ledge overlooking the final chamber of the Maze of Annihilation. The room below was enormous, filled with shifting platforms, spinning energy blades, sudden pitfalls, and walls that could crush anything in seconds. This was the ultimate test, designed to push every cadet to their limits and beyond. Zorvix and the remaining alien cadets hesitated at the entrance, panting, bruised, and terrified. Their arrogance had melted into fear. Some looked at Mark with disbelief. How could a human reach this point, calm and unscathed, while we almost died at every turn? Mark didn't answer. He didn't need to. Every muscle in his body was ready, every thought focused. He had studied the maze's movements from afar, memorized its patterns, and observed every cadet's mistake. Humans survived not because they were the strongest. They survived because they thought faster, observed better, and adapted to every danger. The first step down was a floating platform over a pit filled with glowing, corrosive liquid. The platform tilted slightly under Mark's weight, testing his balance. He adjusted, keeping his center of gravity low, and moved to the next platform. Behind him, an alien tried the same step and stumbled, barely catching the edge, his claws scraping metal as sparks flew. Next came the spinning energy blades. They swung in random sequences now, faster than before, unpredictable. Mark observed their pattern like a clock: 3 swings left, pause, 2 swings right, 1 pause. Timing was everything. He ducked, rolled, and leaped, moving like water flowing through rocks. One misstep would mean death. He landed safely, barely breaking a sweat, while an alien cadet got sliced across the arm, yelping in pain. The maze was collapsing faster now. Sections of the floor dropped, walls shifted, and energy beams shot across corridors without warning. Panic filled the alien cadets while Mark moved steadily, almost like he was dancing with the danger. His calm was infuriating to the others. Then Zorvix tried to confront him. "Stop right there, human," he growled. "This is where you fall." He charged recklessly, swinging his sharp claws. Most aliens would attack with brute strength, hoping to overpower. Mark didn't flinch. Instead, he sidestepped at the perfect moment, letting Zorvix slam into a moving wall panel. The green cadet's body slammed into the metal with a loud clang, but he rolled, alive yet shaken. Mark didn't pause. Ahead was the final obstacle, the gravity gauntlet. The chamber opened into a vast, circular arena. Platforms floated in mid-air, rotating and sliding at unpredictable angles. Lasers crisscrossed the space, energy grids hummed with deadly force, and the walls slowly closed inward. Only one path through it was safe, and Mark had already figured it out. He leaped onto a platform, then another, moving with precise timing. Every jump, every landing was calculated. Behind him, alien cadets tried to follow but failed. One misjudged a laser speed and tumbled into an energy grid, disappearing in a flash of sparks. Another slipped on a rotating platform and barely clung to the edge. Mark reached the center of the gauntlet, his eyes scanning the room. The final laser barrier blocked the exit. Most cadets would panic, rushing forward and triggering the trap. Mark paused, observed the timing, and then sprinted. The laser swung in a predictable rhythm. He jumped, rolled mid-air, and landed safely on the other side. The chamber doors opened slowly, signaling the maze was complete. Mark stood tall, unscathed, while the alien cadets stared in shock. They had mocked him at the beginning. They had laughed, thinking he was weak. Now, all that arrogance had melted into fear, awe, and disbelief. Mark exhaled calmly, looking at the chaos behind him. The maze had tested strength, speed, and courage, but it had also revealed something else. The intelligence, patience, and adaptability were more powerful than brute force. Humans were not the weakest species in the galaxy. They were dangerous, unpredictable, and lethal when underestimated. And today, Mark Jensen had proven it. Mark Jensen stepped out of the maze of annihilation. The arena doors closed behind him with a slow, metallic thud, echoing through the training hall. Dust and sparks from collapsing walls settled in the air. The alien cadets who had entered before him were either trapped, bruised, or lying on the floor, panting heavily. Some stared blankly, unable to process what had just happened. Others glared at him, shame mixed with fear. Commander Vryn floated toward Mark, his translucent form flickering slightly. "Impressive," he said quietly, almost to himself. "I've never seen a human navigate the maze with such precision and calm." He turned to the cadets behind him. "Take note, this is not just strength or speed. This is intelligence, strategy, and adaptability. Traits many of you underestimate until it's too late." The aliens had once laughed at Mark, mocked him, and assumed humans were fragile and weak. Now silence hung over them like a heavy fog. Some were embarrassed, others frightened. Zorvix, the green-skinned cadet who had mocked him the most, struggled to get up from a half-collapsed wall. His multiple eyes followed Mark as if searching for a weakness. There was none. Mark walked slowly across the arena floor, observing the chaos without haste. He didn't gloat, didn't shout, didn't celebrate. Humans didn't always need loud victories. Sometimes, simply surviving and proving a point silently was more powerful than any words could be. He glanced at the maze's remains. Sparks still flickered from broken energy panels. Platforms floated precariously, and walls shifted even as the structure tried to reset. The maze had claimed many alien cadets, some for misjudgment, others for overconfidence. Every trap had been avoided by Mark with calm observation, timing, and patience. A cadet finally spoke, breaking the silence. How did you do that?" His voice trembled. "We, none of us, expected a human to move like that. You're unstoppable." Mark shrugged lightly. "I didn't do anything impossible. I just watched, waited, and used what I saw. That's all humans do. We survive." His tone was calm, almost casual, but every word carried weight. The aliens felt it. A quiet power, one they had mocked at first, now radiated from him. Zorvix got to his feet, his pride bruised, but something had changed. He looked at Mark not with hatred, but with respect tinged with fear. "We misjudged you," he admitted, voice low. "We thought humans were weak. We were wrong." Mark gave a small, knowing smile. "It's not about strength. It's about thinking, adapting, and staying calm when others panic. Humans are unpredictable, and that's our advantage." The remaining cadets nodded, silently acknowledging the lesson they had learned too late. Mockery could never outweigh intelligence. Brute force could never defeat cleverness. And a human who refused to be afraid could change the outcome of anything, even a deadly maze designed for the elite of the galaxy. Commander Vryn floated closer, his voice resonating through the arena. "Let this be a lesson to all cadets: never underestimate a human. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Remember this name, Lieutenant Mark Jensen. He has shown what humans are capable of, what they survive, what they endure, and how dangerous they can be when provoked." Mark turned and walked toward the exit of the arena. Behind him, cadets stared, some still shaken, others inspired. He didn't need to look back. The message had been sent. Humans were not weak. They were clever, resilient, and unpredictable. As he stepped into the sunlight outside the arena, Mark felt a quiet satisfaction. He hadn't sought recognition, but he had earned it. The maze was meant to test the cadets, but it had revealed something more. Human ingenuity and calm could overcome even the deadliest of challenges. And somewhere in the academy, whispers began to spread. A human conquered the maze of annihilation. A human survived what no alien could. Do not underestimate them. Mark Jensen didn't care about the whispers. He knew one thing clearly: humans were not to be underestimated. And those who did would soon learn the hard way. The sun reflected off the metallic academy towers, casting long shadows over the arena. Mark walked steadily forward, a single human against a galaxy of doubters, but a galaxy that would never forget him. The day had begun with mockery and laughter. It ended with silence, respect, and a single, undeniable truth: humans were dangerous when underestimated.